quotes, infused with the scent of potpourri, films we commit to memory. Crossing the felt ropes, watching from home on my TV, looking at all my eyes can see. They tell me I view obsessively.
Hello and welcome to a special episode of the Obsessive Viewer podcast. We're a weekly show reviewing 2 new or recent release titles every episode with an occasional free-for-all segment at the end that we call Potpourri. I'm your host, Matt Hurt, and you can find more of my work, including my written reviews, full episode show notes, and the complete backlog of our episodes and spin-off podcasts at obsessiveviewer.com. You can also follow me on Letterboxd and other social media platforms at the username of Obsessive Viewer. And if you'd like to support us and get access to hundreds of exclusive episodes, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. And if you don't want to mess around with Patreon or anything, you can always just make a donation at buymeacoffee.com/obsessiveviewer. So, like I said, this is a special episode of the podcast. If you guys heard the last episode where I interviewed Andy Redwine and Richard Probst about the documentary The Tenderness Tour, it's going to be a similar episode to that. I'm going to have 2 interviews here in this episode. They're the audio versions of interviews that I have up on the Obsessive Viewer podcast YouTube page, and spread all around social media as well. So, this is going to kind of serve as the Heartland 2025 wrap-up episode for Obsessive Viewer. And as such, let me give a rundown of my year at the festival this year. So, before I do all of that, I do want to mention that I did something a little bit different this year. And the movies that I watched, I went ahead and did my normal immediate reaction recordings that I usually do for new release movies that I post on Patreon. So those usually are on the 2 to 5, or really all the payment tiers on Patreon. But what I did for Heartland movies was I just posted them on the free tier. So all you have to do to listen to that is sign up for a free membership on Patreon at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer, and you will get access to not only those recordings, but the recordings from last year's Heartland and a couple free bonus episodes of the Obsessive Viewer. I did like a holiday episode last year for the free membership tier, and also the sneak preview episode of my Gotham project that I'm doing next year on Patreon. So the episode 0 of that is up on Patreon for the free tier. So if you want to get access to the immediate reactions to this year's Heartland, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and sign up for a free membership, and you get access to all those goodies. And you get like a specific RSS feed, so you can plug it into any podcast app that you use that accepts RSS feeds, which is pretty much all of them. So, okay, enough rambling. Let's get down to business. So this year's Heartland has concluded. They've given out the awards. They gave out the audience awards, and I, like I usually do, just kind of found myself falling into a bunch of different things here and there throughout the run of the festival. It is legitimately like my favorite time of year for the things that I do. I've talked about it in years past that it's an opportunity for me to kind of stretch out of my comfort zone a little bit and kind of do things that are maybe not necessarily scary at this point, but a little bit different than what I usually do, which is just talking to a microphone about movies that I watch and things like that. So, so this is like the introduction, or this year was more of the like go more into the video format style of things. So I did interviews with several people across 3 different movies. So you guys have already heard the Tenderness Tour interviews that I released as a podcast episode last week. And this time you're going to be hearing my interviews with the filmmakers behind the films Disposable Humanity and A Simple Machine. So I had the opportunity to interview the director of Disposable Humanity and the co-writer of Disposable Humanity, Cameron S. Mitchell and David T. Mitchell. And I have that full interview up on YouTube, but you are going to hear in this episode the audio version of that, of course. I'll talk a little bit about that documentary before when I tee up the interview and everything, but it's phenomenal. It's incredible. And then the other interview that I'll have on this episode is for the filmmakers behind A Simple Machine, which I got the opportunity to interview the director, Mark Hoffman, and the producer, Alyssa Rohrenbeck. Sorry. So before I get to those interviews, I am going to kind of just share some thoughts about Heartland this year and just what it's like to be able to do this thing each year with varying degrees of involvement that I have. So first things first, the audience awards were announced, and included in the audience awards is the IFGA award. Now, I am a member of the Indiana Film Journalists Association, and a lot of the guests that I have on the podcast are fellow critics from that organization. I love being a part of it. I've been a part of it for, I think, 6 years at this point, and it's great. And we, within the last few years, have basically done an awards. We've selected a movie for an award, and usually it's for Indiana-based movies, but this year it was special presentations, so it was kind of all a little bit scattered. But this year we awarded the Richard Linklater movie Blue Moon as the IFGA Audience Choice Award for this year. So that was the movie that we selected for our award. And some of the other Audience Choice Awards, very pleased to say that the Tenderness Tour got the not only got the Audience Award for the Audience Choice Award for Indiana Spotlight Audience Choice, but it also got the HUDOC's Indiana Spotlight Documentary Award, which brought with it a $2,000 cash prize, which is awesome. And throughout the run of the festival, the final tally is that they were able to raise $30,000 for undue medical debt, which equates to erasing $3 million worth of Indiana medical debt. And that is phenomenal. And as such, because it's an Audience Choice Award winner, you can still view the Tenderness Tour on the Heartland Film website. You can buy a ticket. I think it's $15 for a streaming ticket. That is extended, since it's an Audience Choice Award winner, through October 26th. So if you're listening to this before then and you haven't seen it or you want to see it again, go to heartlandfilm.org. I'll also put a link in the show notes of this episode to where you can get a ticket to watch it digitally, and just marvel at this great documentary that features one of my friends from the IFJ. So that's my spiel there. Also, I was very pleased to see that A Simple Machine got the Narrative Official Selection Audience Choice Award at this at this year's Heartland Film Festival. That's fantastic. You'll hear in the interview here in a bit. I loved this movie. I had a lot of thoughts about it, and I still think it is just so beautifully done and beautifully just rendered. And the story is really gripping and also very introspective for the characters. So, so those are some of the Audience Choice Award winners and the winners for this year's Heartland Film Festival. But as with any year, with Heartland, there's more movies to see that I couldn't get a chance to see, or I didn't have the time to see, but it is always really a really incredibly curated, programmed film festival. And not to say, oh, thanks to the pandemic or anything, but one interesting thing is that they have those digital screenings. They have that digital option that you can have, that you can stream the movies throughout, which I feel like that's amazing, specifically because it gets more eyes on these movies just as they're running through the festival. And I think that's phenomenal. So having said all of that, I only saw 6 movies at this festival this year. So I'm going to do better next year. But I saw the special presentation movies I saw were Rental Family and Is This Thing On? If you want to hear my immediate reaction to those, check the Patreon on the free tier. And then, of course, I saw Disposable Humanity and The Tenderness Tour and a documentary called Winter Fantasy, which all of those are really, really good documentaries. I'm glad that I saw them. Winter Fantasy also has this Indiana bend to it. The filmmaker Lauren Z. Ray directed a documentary about 5 years ago called Welcome to Monterey, that I was really taken with. It's just this exploration of the small town in Indiana with a very limited number of people populating it. And then now this documentary, Winter Fantasy, is about her returning to Logansport High School, specifically her alma mater, and kind of charting the growth of the theater department, the musical theater department, and their staging of that year's Winter Fantasy show, which is Fiddler on the Roof, in the documentary. But it goes far beyond that. She talks to alumni and former staff, retired staff, retired faculty, active faculty. It's this really interesting, just kind of widespread, this macro view of this small town's musical theater program and how it influences people and like creates these bonds and everything. It's really good. So so that's Winter Fantasy. And then, of course, I also saw A Simple Machine, which I do have an anecdote about that. And I promise this will lead us into getting into that first interview, because I'm going to have the A Simple Machine interview first, and then I'm going to close it out with my Disposable Humanity interview. Of course, I probably don't remember if I said this at the top or not, but if you want to navigate around these interviews or what have you, check the show notes for timestamps. I timestamp the episodes, every episode. So you look in your podcast app or go to obsessiveviewer.com/OV491 and you'll find the timestamps for each interview and each segment and everything. So just something to keep in mind while I ramble on and on. So I will start to wind down this intro, and I'll talk a little bit about A Simple Machine. And the premise for A Simple Machine, according to IMDb, is coming out of the pandemic, Nick makes a series of choices to get out of debt without telling his practically fiancé that he's going to be homeless. This is a narrative feature that is directed by Mark Hoffman, and it is written by Mark Hoffman, and it is based or inspired by a novel by Evan P. Schneider. And the cast includes Richard Blackman, Gabriella Quezada, and Brad Carter. So an interesting anecdote about A Simple Machine. On, I think it was Wednesday night of this festival, of this year's Heartland, I got a message from the producer, Alyssa, saying that, oh, hey, you reviewed one of my movies, my last movie that was in town several years ago. I have a new movie out now called A Simple Machine. We're screening tomorrow. It would be great if you could come to it. And I was like, here's the thing. I had specifically taken time off from work, from my day job. And so I had PTO and everything. And I was like, okay, I'm going to watch some digital screeners. I'm going to kind of dive into Heartland as best as I can while fighting allergies in the fall, because now that I'm 39, apparently I'm just suddenly getting really bad allergies and it's terrible. But anyway, so I had this all mapped out, and I just thought it was really serendipitous and fortuitous that this producer reached out to me. And it's also in my ego driven brain, I'm like, that's so awesome that I did something years ago. I reviewed a movie because I did it for Nuvo and I got paid for it, which was nice. But but also I did that because I like covering local film festivals and stuff. This is my happy place, one of my many happy places. And it's just really cool to see that someone who worked on a film that I reviewed remembered me and reached out to me, and that changed the trajectory of my Heartlanding this year in a very positive way. And by the reason I say that is because I had Thursday off from work, and I was thinking, oh, I'll just watch a digital screener. I'll watch digital screeners all day. And just it something kind of just crystallized in my brain when Alyssa had mentioned that they were having a physical screening. I was just like, no, I'm able to go. Like my schedule is free. People that are bringing movies to like Heartland Film Festival, they are people who have worked so hard for so long to get their films to a point where they're like ready to be shown. So there's nothing against streaming. There's nothing against digital stuff or whatever. But I feel like and this is something I'm going to bring into next year's Heartland, I think. But if I have an opportunity to see one of these movies in a movie theater, I will take that every time, instead of staying at home and watching it on my computer. So that kind of just like really lit a fire under me. I went to the screening, which, by the way, this year was the first year that Alamo Drafthouse was a sponsor for Heartland Film Festival. They were like a presenting sponsor, essentially. Alamo Drafthouse, who I've talked about on the podcast before, the Indianapolis location opened up last year. And it's just so cool to see them partnering with Heartland in their second year. This is the 34th year of Heartland. Alamo Drafthouse is a like presenting sponsor of this Heartland, the second year that Alamo has been in the city. And I think that's great. It is an amazing venue to show films. And the sound design in those theaters are just so good. It's insane. But that kind of speaks to a further thing that I have about Heartland in general. And I know I'm rambling. I promise I'll get to the interviews. But one of the big things that I have a lot of pride for as someone who lives in Indianapolis and looks forward to Heartland and like film festivals in general, but always makes a point to try to get as much Heartland stuff done as I can. Just seeing the way the city and the film community within the city has changed for the better over the last 10, 13 years since I've started podcasting and reviewing movies and writing and everything, has been so, like, in a weird way, fulfilling to me as a complete obsessive about movies. Because my first Heartland was in, I think, 2014, or maybe 2015, but in that year, like, they were renting out auditoriums in AMC theaters around the city, Traders Point, Castleton. That's where they were showing their movies. And there's nothing against that or anything. Like, those are like big venues and everything. But just the fact that now here, 10 years later, the places that they're showing movies for Heartland, because back then they also showed them in at the not the State Museum, but at Newfields, which is the art museum, and they have a very beautiful Toby Theaters where it is. They still have screenings there for Heartland, but they also had them in like a lecture room back then in some of them. That's where they were like finding ways to show the films. But now we have Alamo Drafthouse. We've got the Can Theater. We've got Indie Art Center is another one that they were screening at, and they were also showing at the Toby Theater in Newfields. And it's just so great, and it makes me feel so warm and fuzzy that, you know, Heartland now has like these places that they can go to, and it's like it is designed for the film community, the film bro community that I'm a part of here in Indianapolis. So yeah, that is my rambling thoughts about Heartland. I love it. I'm so glad that I was able to participate in things this year, and yeah, I'm hoping to do more next year. I say that every year. But without further ado, let's get into these interviews. So the first one that's coming up is For a Simple Machine, which is again directed by Mark Hoffman, and has a cast of actors whose names include Richard Blackman, Gabriella Quezada, and Brad Carter. And my interview is with Mark Hoffman and Alyssa Rohrenbeck. And a little bit about this interview really quick is that we, again, going back to the whole can thing, the venues of Heartland thing, the can's amazing. The filmmakers of A Simple Machine had a screening at Can on Saturday, and I didn't have anything going on, and I wanted to interview them, so we arranged for me to meet them at the Can at 5:00, and I would do an interview with them, and then they would do their screening, and then I would go home and edit and everything. But anyway, so it was storming. It started raining around 4 p.m. I think, and it was by the end of this interview, it got going pretty hardcore in terms of rain and everything. So hopefully it's a decent ambiance, but I don't know how good the sound quality is really. But anyway, shout out to the Can as we were trying to figure out where to do the interview. One of the owners of the Can, I believe, overheard us and was like, "Hey," he guided us upstairs to this private meeting room or what have you. And so we were able to do a full 20-minute interview with total privacy. He even gave us a big light for lighting for the video. So I really appreciated that. So shout out to Can. So without further ado, let's get into this interview with Alyssa Rohrenbeck and Mark Hoffman of A Simple Machine, recorded on location at the Can Theater in Indianapolis.
We're still good with this, right?
Things aren't always worth the price you pay for them.
I am here at Heartland Film Festival with the filmmaking team behind A Simple Machine, which is screening at Heartland through this weekend and streaming on throughout this weekend. Welcome to Indianapolis on this very gloomy, rainy Saturday. Could you introduce yourselves, tell me your roles in the film, and a little bit about the film?
I'm Mark Hoffman, and I'm the director, writer, also editor on the film. It's a project I've been working on off and on for the last 12 years. I discovered this novel at one of our local bookstores. I mean, is it okay to go into it?
Oh, yeah, no, go, please.
Or let Alyssa introduce herself real quick.
Hi, I'm Alyssa Rohrenbeck. I'm a producer of several on A Simple Machine.
So, it's a book that I found about 12 years ago in a local bookstore. I really liked it. I reached out to the author to see if I could adapt it for a film, and luckily he was really into the idea. And we worked on that off and on for a number of years, and then the screenplay just sort of sat around until after the pandemic, just the themes in the screenplay just became a lot more relevant. And so that's when I decided to really go back and rewrite some of the things to make it more fit within the kind of current time period post-pandemic. And then I met Alyssa a couple of years ago see if she would be interested in working on an indie project. And this is something that we kind of brought about all ourselves, a very grassroots local project from Portland, Oregon. Definitely, 100% local filmmaking. And that's kind of how it got made.
Nice. And so a lot of what kind of blows my mind after you saying that is that it's based on a novel that was obviously published before the pandemic and everything. The way that the pandemic plays a role in the film early on, it's very much kind of takes place in the waning days of the pandemic, I would say. And you just the documenting of it in that way feels just so authentic and real. And I were there any Was there any like consideration that you made when working toward that? Like anything that you had to consider with implementing the pandemic into the film?
A lot, yeah. I mean, luckily he wrote a story about someone kind of coming of age film about someone trying to decide what they wanted to do in life, but also dealing with the economic pressures, which at that time was like, more like the financial meltdown from the 2008, 2009. But that all easily fit within the pandemic. And so just rewriting it, being in Portland at that time, seeing what was happening around me, it just made it it was all just right in front of me. And also the change in Portland, which I think a change everywhere, was just seeing, a huge amount of people going unhoused, and just the reality of that, and just so hard to afford housing was a huge thing.
Just the cost of living is
in
just
general,
ridiculous in general, yeah. And that's something that I came away from this film feeling like it's kind of a multifaceted, just drama about this central character who is going through a lot. And I found myself like really relating to several points in the movie and his journey. And part of that is this level of internalized grief that he seems to have, and how the way that, not to get into spoilers or anything, but there is a death close to him. The circumstances of that death are very cold and distant because of the general pandemic of it all. Yeah. But before that, we see the living conditions of that individual, and I just felt so connected with that urge to rid yourself of material possessions and rid yourself of, like, to pare down everything in an effort to get out of debt and just lead a mentally healthier life at the expense of the people around you in a lot of ways. So I don't know. Well, I don't really have a question for that. Just
it's
just a compliment. Yeah. And did you take any of that into consideration, like the grief aspect versus the just drowning in debt aspect?
For sure. And that was why, and I guess we can bring up his mother character. That's not going to spoil things.
Yeah, I hope not.
But to contrast what he was going through and wanting to shed everything in his life to his mother, who was sort of doing the opposite. And, we don't really get too in depth, but you see her circumstance, you understand that she's a hoarder. And so to see those two different extremes, was also a way to help explain, well, why would this character go to the extreme of trying to shed everything? I think we all, to some extent, have those instincts to want to shed things to make our lives simpler.
Oh, yeah.
But that's why it was, in a way, fun to have that character, to do it vicariously through him, where he just sheds everything. What's going to happen? But try to do it in a realistic way as possible, because he's not necessarily against consumer culture, because he still has to exist within it. We all do. But he's figuring out how much he can pare it down. And he's almost looking at it mathematically, and that's what's really interesting in the book, is how this character just, almost does it like a scientist. Like, he figures out this formula: things and stuff equals freedom spent. Yep. And once he figures out that formula, he's going to try to see how far he can go with it and what that means. It doesn't mean that he doesn't still have things in his life, because he still needs things, and we all need to consume to continue to live. Yeah. But he's going to pare it down as much as he can.
Yeah, absolutely. And Alyssa, how did you come on board the project? Like, what attracted you to the film?
I think in general, I get emails all the time from people, but I think in my career as a producer, what's become really, really important to me is only doing the projects that mean something to me, or really working on things that mean something to me. And I think we got introduced from another fellow colleague of ours, sort of like, hey, you guys might work well together. And then they sent me the script, and like sort of after I read the script, it was just like, okay, I'm in. But we put together a really tight team of people. I think we're like a big family now, and we were lucky enough to make it at a time when we were able to get like some of the top talented people in Portland to work on the film. So I think when you watch it, you really see that. It's a beautiful film. Yeah.
Yeah, and that lead performance, what is the actor's name? I'm so sorry.
His name is Richard Blackman, and he should be a star already.
It was incredible. Like, that performance is so, like I said, kind of very internalized, very just like really carrying a lot. And there's a scene late in the film, I'm not going to give anything away, but there is a scene late in the film where after he has kind of distanced himself from loved ones, he and his girlfriend have a conversation on a porch. And the just gut punch of that moment is so, like, I kind of haven't stopped thinking about it since seeing it like 2 nights ago. Just the way that it goes one way that I wasn't expecting, but also like the way that it weaves in so much of the plot thus far, and really just brings home like the weight of his actions and how he's responding to things in his life. And I just think that was just an incredible scene. Again, not a question, just comment.
Richard is an amazing actor. Part now that makes me want to, try to put this film out there in the world is people need to see him, and he needs to get more roles and more films. He's so talented. Also physically, he had to ride this bike, and this is a small production. We couldn't necessarily have the stunt people or other ways. Like, he was fully engaged and ready to go for it and ride this bike. Don't want to give away anything, but he was amazing on both as a physical actor and an emotional one as well.
He also sort of like, it was really awesome to see Mark and Richard work together all the way from like the beginning, before we were even like together in Portland. Like, Richard, they started talking about the script and working on things. And I think one of my funnest or best memories from the project is actually the day that we did the voiceover recording. Everybody went back and forth tons of times about how much voiceover should be in the movie, where should voiceover go. I don't know how many times Mark rewrote voiceovers, but it had to be hundreds sometimes. But then we got to this moment where we were like recording the last piece of the voiceover work, and we kind of didn't really know where it should go. And then sort of Richard just took it and I honestly started tearing up like the moment we were recording it, because it was just the perfect, most beautiful way to put it. And it was a really, really great experience.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. One more thing to say about Richard, which we knew he was the right person. He was not a child actor, was not into acting. He really had a lot of life experiences, also some experiences on a bike where he crashed, which I didn't know about. And so part of this whole movie process was him getting comfortable back on a bike again. But he played college football, was more of an athlete. And so it just made it very easy to work, almost like coach him. And that was kind of why we brought him on, just such an easy person to work with. Yeah. Very
cool. Very cool. I also want to highlight and talk a bit about the black and white photography of the film. And something that blew my mind at the Q&A at the screening on Thursday was that was something that wasn't officially determined or didn't get the final go ahead until in the editing process. And again, just compliment, I was so surprised by that, because it looks absolutely gorgeous. And it looks like if you were to tell me that, this was not shot specifically with the idea from the get-go to be in black and white, I would not have, there was no way I would have believed you. I kind of can't right now anyway, but it's so strikingly beautiful in the visuals of it, especially when you see protest scenes. And there are a couple very just mesmerizing dream-ish sequences that I think just really sing in the black and white photography. So can you talk a little bit about the choice to cut it in black and white and be have it be in black and white?
Yeah, we were just talking about this. That seems like the main question. Actually, it wasn't totally decided. Yeah, it wasn't totally decided until the edit, but it was probably 90% decided because midway through shooting, and there was something that the DP, who that's the reason why it looks so beautiful. He's an amazing DP, Kevin Fletcher. He knew early on he wanted it to be black and white right from the very beginning when he read the script, and we talked about it, and I questioned it, not just more so because I love Portland so much, and I wanted to see all these beautiful images of Portland in full color, and I just wasn't quite sure about it. And then midway through the filming, Kevin, before shooting one day, he basically came up to me and said, if we don't shoot this in black and white, I don't know if I can work if we don't focus on black and white, I don't know if I can work on this anymore because I feel so strongly about it. Because at that time we were monitoring the image, with the monitor. You can easily switch it from color to black and white. So we were looking at things as, a color picture and then a black and white picture, and we kept going back and forth, and it became really hard for him. He's like, we have to only look at this in black and white now. And he was right. There's a lot of reasons for it being black and white, but it was nice that we came to that decision organically rather than just like, this is how it has to be right away. I think it made us think much deeper about why it should be that way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There was something that struck me about it in the beginning, that first act of the movie where we're more in the pandemic era, like we're in that, we see masks and everything, and it's very much in that pandemic time. I had this like weird feeling where, I don't know if you guys have the same experience, but post 2020, time is irrelevant right now.
I think you're going to hit on exactly one of our reasons why we decided, like for me, after he had told me, like, let's focus, it's a time capsule.
Yes.
And so making it almost feel historical, even when it's not, we're going to look back at that time, it's still not that far away from us. Right. But the world shifted. And so it's nice to have that little time capsule and almost give it a bit of, that was another reason I thought it would be cool to be
That's exactly what I was getting at with that. Like, it just felt like a document of a time, and it made me realize, like, wow, we're 5 years removed from the start of the pandemic, and like it doesn't feel that long ago because it's such a societal shift that occurred, I feel. And just having it depicted that way and shown in that way in the film is really evocative of the time that has passed since then and continues to pass. And I just thought that was brilliant. I thought that was great. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be glad to hear that as well.
So I don't want to take up too much more of you guys' time because I know you guys got a screening.
What time is it now?
5:25. So got 20 minutes before your screening.
Yeah.
So scene one, we've got. No, I'm kidding. But but I did want to ask how has your experience been here at Heartland in Indianapolis, and the weather notwithstanding right now.
So far, I mean, it's actually been a very busy. I just got in last night, and it feels like we're going from one event to the next. But we had a bike ride today, that was part of the goal of coming out here to see if we could connect with the bike community, which we were able to, and they were lovely people, and we just did a nice little bike ride before the rain came. So it was perfect. Lisa's been here a little bit longer.
Yeah, this is actually my second film at this festival, and it's funny because I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Columbus, Ohio originally, so I obviously have a bias for the Midwest. Like, let's just be honest. However, the last movie I had here, I think about 3 years ago, we did a whole festival run that season, that fall. We went to like a whole bunch of festivals back to back to back. And all of us to this day on that filmmaking team say that our best experience was at Heartland. And we just loved how honest and open and just into just seeing movies people here are. And you don't get that in a lot of places. A lot of other film festivals can be really snooty and passive aggressive. And that's just not the experience that you have when you come to Heartland.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that, because I've been covering Heartland and just like the film like community here in Indianapolis for like 12, 13 years now in several different ways. And Heartland has always been like, this is this is like the best time of year for me. I love doing this thing. I love meeting people like you guys and chatting about the art, and it's so interesting to see like how the film community in Indianapolis has grown over the years since I've been like active in my own little way here. It's just it's amazing. So it warms my heart that you guys have had such a positive experience here. Yeah. And where can people find A Simple Machine online?
Well, first you should follow our Instagram, which you just go, if you put in A Simple Machine, it'll come up. You'll see Richard's face there, and you'll have to click on it. But yeah, you should follow our Instagram. That's really where we're going to be posting updates about the movie. And we're sort of still figuring out what's next. We have out to a bunch of other festivals. We're hoping to play in some more festivals. And then I don't know, Mark, do you want to talk any more about what you're going to do with it after that?
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about that before talking to you. I think the goal is just to try to get it in theaters, in art house theaters like this, like Can. And yeah, we just have to see about when we do that, maybe starting where the film originated in Portland, which has a great indie art house, a lot of indie film fans and a great bike community, and, see where it goes from there. But yeah, just go to the Instagram, follow us there, and that'll be a good place to keep up to date.
Perfect. And I did actually want to ask one more question.
Yeah.
The helmet aspect of it. It's such a fun running joke, but I feel like that's like I could mine it for some more like thoughtful things. Like, is he really fully into committing to doing this lifestyle change? But he's not getting a helmet. So like, is there something there? But
that was something that became, sometimes when you make a film, there are things that you have to, safety measures or certain logistical things you have to follow. And then the best, hopefully, those things turn into interesting story making possibilities. Yeah. And that's basically what happened. We wanted to be safe, but to have him in a helmet the whole time was not as cinematic, and also didn't play into his character of sort of discovering his path, that he was going to become a cyclist. He wasn't sure about it. So at first he's just riding out of necessity, and he doesn't have a helmet yet. And so it kind of became a running joke that it was something that we had to think about a lot for safety reasons. Yeah. And then in the end actually became a story point, which was really fortuitous. And
I love how clean that is in the movie, because like my thought here with like, it's not as cinematic with a helmet is like, that makes perfect sense, because like Spider-Man has to take off his mask in each movie he's in anyway.
Yeah, at some point you have to see the character's face.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah. But yeah, I think it's a fantastic film, and I thank you guys so much for your time and for bringing the film here to Heartland. I'm so eager for people to see it, and so excited to see what you guys do with it in the future and what's next. So yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, love your questions.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
They tell me I view obsessively.
Okay, and thank you once again to Mark and Alyssa for taking the time to chat with me about A Simple Machine. Once again, you can find information on A Simple Machine, the movie, at asimplemachine.themovie.com, as well as on Instagram at A Simple Match Film, A Simple MACH Film on Instagram. Links in the show notes, of course. And I'm delighted that I got a chance to speak with them and see the film in the theater, because it is gorgeous, as I said. So before we get to the second interview for this episode, I am going to take a quick moment to remind you that if you like the show, please take a moment to follow us on social media and subscribe to and rate the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, or whatever your preferred podcast app is. And go ahead and subscribe to the Obsessive Viewer Podcast YouTube channel as well, where I am actually posting more and more videos and live streams of podcasts over there. So I have those full reviews from Heartland over on the YouTube page, and who knows, I'll do more. I have a backlog of like video versions of past episodes of the podcast. I'll throw those up there eventually too, but one of the things with Heartland this year was that I was kind of expanding expanding what I usually do in terms of covering stuff. So usually I do like a red carpet, I'll like film it and everything. But this year I did like an actual like sit down interview with Alyssa and Mark, and that was like the first time I did like a long form interview on video with like all the equipment that I've accumulated over the last year or so. So anyway, that was a big deal for me, and I was really proud of it. Also, if you see the video, there's like some moments where the camera catches the lightning in the background, which I thought was really cool. Anyway, go subscribe at Obsessive Viewer Podcasts on YouTube, link in the show notes. And finally, if you are interested in starting a podcast of your own, you can go to Libsyn and use the promo code OBSESS when you sign up for a new account. You can get up to 2 months free depending on when you sign up during the month, and we'll get a commission on it as well. More details on that are in the show notes of this episode, and a special link that will take you directly to sign up with our promo code is in the show notes of the episode. Once again, those show notes are at obsessiveviewer.com/OV491. And now back to the show.
Tell me I view obsessively.
Okay, and let's get to our second interview of this episode. I had the incredible pleasure to not only watch Disposable Humanity, a documentary, but I got a chance to chat with director, writer, cinematographer Cameron Mitchell, and co-writer and featured player of the documentary, David T. Mitchell. And I had a chance to chat with them about their documentary, and I'll talk a little bit about it before I play the interview. But I just want to say, go seek out this movie. It is on the festival circuit now. It is very important. It's really interesting. It is telling this kind of untold story, untold history of euthanasia in Nazi Germany that took out 300,000 disabled people and was the catalyst for the Holocaust. So the premise, according to IMDb, for Disposable Humanity is a family investigates the history and memory of the Nazi Action T4 program, its targeting of over 300,000 disabled people, and its catalyzation of the Holocaust. This is the euthanasia program that basically birthed the gas chambers for the Holocaust. And this is an incredibly just potent and powerful documentary, and I really hope that anyone listening to this has a chance to see it. But you can follow along the progress of Disposable Humanity and follow the film as it runs through different festivals at disposablehumanity.com. You can also follow Disposable Humanity on Instagram, and over at disposablehumanity.com you can also sign up for the mailing list to get all of the information right in your inbox as they get more screenings and more exposure. So I feel incredibly fortunate that I got a chance to chat with Cameron and David during this festival, and they gave me so much of their time. We talked for about an hour. They were in Colorado getting ready to premiere the film at Ridgeway Film Festival, and they were so gracious with their time. It's one of those interviews where I basically just had to shut up and just let them talk about the film, and it's fantastic. I'm so excited for you guys to hear it. Also, go check out the video version on YouTube. But having said all of that, let me go ahead and play a clip from the trailer for Disposable Humanity. And when we come back, you're going to be hearing my interview with Cameron S. Mitchell and David T. Mitchell right after this.
Concentration camp victims, or more sympathetic prisoners, were seen more as martyrs. The euthanasia program, it was poorly understood. There were German victims, they were disabled victims, and it just didn't garner the press or the interest.
This is a mini golf course over here for when they have visitors. They can go over there and play mini golf.
My great-grandmother got killed by the Nazis in the T4 program, the program that killed people who were in psychiatry.
It was an assembly line production of death in which everyone was complicit.
There was basically no prosecution. They were put back in high positions. They made careers after that. Who did? The perpetrators.
Welcome to the show, guys. How's it going? And thank you so much for sitting down with me and chatting with me.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Just for viewers who might not have heard of our film before, I did want to clarify that yes, the middle initial in both of our names is hereditary. It actually was passed down to me from my dad.
Nice.
But we've been taking this film around the country, and Heartland is its first break into the Midwest here. And we showed in Utah before that, but this is the farthest east I've been saying that the film has made it nationally, and it has not had an international premiere yet, if you could believe that.
Wow.
Either. But Matt, you were just telling us before we got on here that you had just watched the film, and
yes.
So I actually wanted to turn the tables here and ask you a question first.
Sure thing.
I'm curious, with the film so fresh in your mind, how did it make you feel?
I will say it is a difficult watch in the way that the best kinds of documentaries are difficult watches. The subject matter, the history, the way that it, the way that you're able to just showcase like what happened, and everything that happened back then is there's an eye for detail, and there's a beauty in like the cinematography and the camera work in general, and the use of archival footage that is mesmerizing in very horrific and heartbreaking ways. And like by the end of this movie, I was just so profoundly impacted by the fact that this is history that should never, ever, ever be forgotten. This is history that should be like no one should be unaware of the things that happened in Nazi Germany throughout all of that time. And it should never, there's no piece that should ever be not uncovered. And I think that this film does such a wonderful job of giving us that detail, giving us that information, and just, putting that at the forefront and contextualizing it in its place in history and why it's so important today. And it's just, I was really, really taken with it. So yeah, that's my immediate reaction.
All right, we'll stop the interview. That's great.
All right. Yeah, thank you for listening. And but I thought it was great. Hats off. Like it's phenomenal.
Thank you. Yeah, it's 25 years of my family's research. We started going to Germany in the 90s, where my folks are disability studies professors, and they were actually presenting on the history of American eugenics in Germany. And then a German person in the audience stood up and said, "Yeah, they did this right around the corner from here in Nazi Germany in the 1940s." And so we grabbed a handy cam and went and filmed at several of the sites. Eventually, my folks, they make films as a part of their academic research. So they made a documentary short called A World Without Bodies. Footage from that film can be seen in this film in the feature length. And I just remember as a kid, I was so impacted by the fact that I'd never seen disabled people represented in the Holocaust. I had read The Diary of Anne Frank. I had read Art Spiegelman's Mouse. I was also a fan of a lot of great World War II movies, which never mention it. And still to this day, I think that trend continues. There's brief mentions of T4 in the film Never Look Away, which came out last year. There's a couple of films out there, but this is the first feature film to ever focus solely on the Nazi Action T4 program from the perspective of disabled people. And why that matters and why it's important is because they had these 6 T4 memorials. They were on the sites of the 6 killing centers where this occurred, and they are many of them are also still active psychiatric institutions. So in the film, we go into that and we address this conundrum of small spoiler here. One of the directors actually says if you had to shut down every psychiatric institution where T4 occurred, you would have to shut down every building in the psychiatric system in Germany. But so yeah, it's really quite a thing to wrap your head around. It's familiar but unfamiliar history, right?
Yes. Oh yeah, and it's like when talking about Nazi Germany and the Holocaust and everything, that's one of the things that I kind of said before, like what I was kind of taken with by this documentary is that, like, as someone who, like, I'm 39, growing up here in the US, I know about the history and like know about like what was taught in schools and everything, and what's in pop culture and my own like nonfiction reading and everything. And so like, I know intellectually, like, yes, that disabled people were targeted as well as every other marginalized person and all of that. But just, it's something that has gone through in terms of presenting history to us, that it's like, you don't really come away knowing any real specifics of it, like any of the like really specific details of it, like how it started and what, like this being kind of the catalyst for the Holocaust and the gas chambers and everything, is something that just like, that's brand new information for me. And like, that's my fear on a more broad level, that the farther we get away from these atrocities, these horrific events, how, like, the farther away we get, how much is it going to be like, oh, this thing that happened in the past, and not this thing that should never ever happen again in human future history, anything. And that's why I think like documentaries like this and the work that you guys do is so incredibly vital, because I feel like it's at the point here where I don't need to go into specifics, but the current time that we live in now, the current, political climate, the current administration and everything, like,
or to imagine that, Elon Musk went to Germany to an AfD party that's, they control 20% of the seats in their parliament. And said it's time to move on from the Holocaust, that Germany has felt enough guilt. And so we actually said, Elon, you don't even know how the Holocaust started. You're asking people to move on from this historical event, and nobody has the context of what Action T4 is, or even how all this happened. My dad, I'll let him tell this story, but he frequently asks his students, do you know where the gas chamber comes from? And what do they say?
Yeah. Nobody ever raises their hand because we don't know where the gas chambers came from, because we don't know the history that set up the Holocaust. I think that there's often a misprision among Germans, academics, and people studying Germany, that the Nazi plan was to deport all Jewish people to places like Madagascar, Siberia, Loops. And when they got wind of the T4 program and how successful it had been, more than 300,000 people were dead by the end of World War II. Then the Nazis put their efforts into the Holocaust, and they took the exact killing apparatus, they took the knowledge base that had been developed in T4, and they rented the staff that had been participating in the killings in psychiatric institutions, And they also brought the psychiatrists and neurologists who had committed the crimes to the death camps in order to run the killing of Jews in the way that it had been run through the killing of disabled people.
Mm-hmm. And this wasn't something that was planned. You also mentioned recently in our interviews at Heartland that the T4, the Nazi administration kind of got wind of what the T4 staff were doing. It originally the plan was this deportation. And so there's actually a meeting at the Wannsee Conference House where they decide upon the final solution, and deportation to Madagascar is presented alongside the Action T4 program, and that becomes the final solution. So really, I think important to understand in our current contemporary moment how, these things, they're kind of stumbled upon. The eugenical sentiments of politicians, leaders, they're really like the mysticism that we swarm around when they're left unchecked. And that's exactly like what someone like Trump does, or Elon, or Stephen Miller. They float these ideas out there, muzzle velocity level, as Steve Bannon likes to say, and they see what can get through unchallenged or unchecked, and then it just kind of it evolves from there, because public appearance, public visibility is super important in enabling the takeover of, whatever you're trying to do. Whenever you want control, whenever you want submission, you don't want things occurring in public that can really disrupt your space and what you're trying to do. So I think this film is, waking a lot of people up to that idea that institutionalization, being behind the four walls of an institution, really disabled people are the canaries in the coal mine. They're the people who disappear first because they are sequestered from society and they are on the outside, looking in a lot of the time, not by their own choice.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. That it's really scary times that we're in and everything. And again, this documentary is such a great document and at times warning sign as well, for the era we're in now. It's an amazing feat. I will say that. So to kind of get into the kind of meat and potatoes of the film itself, like this, you guys had been working on this for years. Can you tell me a little bit about like the process of creating the film and getting it to the point where you're premiering it at Slamdance earlier this year?
Yeah. So, and by the way, just to finish up on that thought, I think it's really important. What this film also leaves people with, or I hope as the director that it leaves people with, is hope, because you see how important public dissent is, how important your voice is in bringing attention to something, to doing something, and to just, even if there aren't disabled people in the room with you, thinking about them, thinking about how these things affect disabled people. So I just wanted to add that I think it's a very dark film with a very dark title. And yes, we do get very deeply into this darkest corner of human history. But there's a reason why comedian Steve Way called this film the blueprint to resist fascism, because you have to understand, you have to look inwards, you have to look into the detail in order to understand and see the patterns that occur in these types of events. So
yes, like at this point, we're not, I don't feel like we're at a point of no return with this country and everything, but like, yeah. But just the fact that like, I can say, yeah, we're like, this administration is sliding more and more and more and more and more into fascism and everything. And just me saying that, if Trump had his druthers and if his executive orders meant anything, that would like label me, like me saying that would be, oh, I'm a domestic terrorist because I don't support fascism. Just like the bananas crazy stuff that's going on, but having just the history at the forefront of our minds and done so meticulously as it is in this film, and so surgical as well. Like the detail, the history, like the absolute, like the diving into the all of the details with it is pivotal, because as we look back at history, as we look back at these horrific events and everything, we're doing that as looking into the past, but at the same time, we're seeing it as this call to action, this call to just not be having your head in the sand moment, for the sake of our futures and near future and far future. So, yeah.
And the idea that a film, like the beauty of film as a medium, is that a film can be made at any time and somebody can just decide to create this act of love and preserving the memories of the lost T4 victims or whoever else. And that's the power of film, right? We can collect all 6 of these T4 memorial centers into one film so that a disabled person or someone who might not be able to reach all of these places because they're in incredibly geographically difficult places to reach in Germany, someone can see all of those places in one space in one film. And that was kind of like the process of making this thing was, I remember Ryan Hamaker, our B camera operator, he just said to me one day, he's like, we're just here to capture. We're here to capture as much as possible because, he could see me as the director agonizing over, okay, where to go next? Because there's so many stories. It's so difficult to make the decisions of, okay, we had 2 months in Germany and Poland and Austria. And we had to be very wise about how we spent that time schedule. And so when Ryan said, we're just capturing, and that kind of reset me. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get into camera operator, cinematographer mode here, and just react. Right. And that, that was in 2017. And years later, when I was in post-production with Rachel Sophia Stewart, our editor, I remember I made these little postcards and I put the scenes that we had found together, like Rachel and I, because she was really instrumental because I was so close to the material. Sometimes it was like this in front of my face. And for those listening, I'm just holding my hand right up to my face here. It was literally right in front of my eyes. Rachel would point out like, oh, that shot you thought was unusable, because the subject was looking into the lens. That's actually it feels like you're looking into their soul, and things like that. So, this film really came about. It wasn't, you had a script because you needed it to pitch to grants and, to get it produced. But when it came to the edit, it was just best scenes win, and so from 2017 until 2020, until now, that was the process in post-production. And I really respect documentary filmmakers because I think there's no one that spends more time on a film without like a paint by numbers kind of script or approach, and comes out on the other end with some form of art. I think that's incredible. Oh, absolutely.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to go back to the beginning of your question, which is about historical anachronism, and trying to avoid allowing this piece of history to fall into that. And I find that a lot of times historical anachronism helps you because it allows you to kind of separate yourself and put it in the distance a bit. And then as you're watching the film, it starts to come closer and closer. And I think that Cameron's technique does that, because we move from here's some of the background history and then end up at the memorial artists who are working today in order to try to keep the memory of T4 from falling into the dustbin of history. And I think that's so important, because it's through these artists. So then the Nazis' plan was to essentially annihilate disabled people like they were an extinct species. Didn't want to see them, didn't want anything to do with them. They wanted to wipe out their memory. And these artists, 3-4 generations later, deciding to jump this historical divide in order to bring back their relatives or people that they knew who died during this T4 period. I find that very moving myself.
Yeah, and you're talking about T4 victims who sometimes their lives have been reduced to temperature charts, medical charts, and just like a daily check-in even. And so the film's job is really to try to imagine what that person was like. And when we don't have it, to talk about that absence, kind of like the negative space between, kind of like a Roger Waters guitar solo or something like that. It's just like we're living in the in-between moments. And the director of The Tallest Dwarf said that to me recently. She was like, it really lets you meander a bit and, contemplate and think on it.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The moments in the documentary that talk about the victims of T4, and in particular, like going through old records and finding trying to find the death certificate, and like knowing that like the one person's testimonial about having a relative who just he and his family just thought was, they died as a baby, and learning that wasn't the case, and just lamenting that idea that like he doesn't know what his interests were, or like who he was. And like it's that level of like generational grief and not knowing. It's like you can tell that it's like not knowing a part of yourself. And that is something that is just so deeply tragic and just so potent in the film. And I just really love the way that it just kind of shows that piece of the story, as tragic as it is.
I mean, I think also you have to think about that kind of effort to resurrect people from 3-4 generations ago, really as an act of political activism. We often don't recognize disability as having, a kind of strong activist movement, but it's because I think it works much more subtly, in general. And what happened was we kept going back to these T4 memorial centers, and they were all inaccessible. And they were inaccessible because they were built largely for staff in training, like physicians, nurses. They thought that would be their major audience, and never considered that disabled people would want to take up a piece of their history that might reflect upon them. And, I think that Cameron's film just captures that in a way that's so powerful.
Absolutely. Yep.
Nor that the Nazis themselves, they made these spaces inaccessible. So that German functional engineering that they're so known for as a cultural stereotype, right? It's there were stairs into these gas chambers. There were stairs into these castles. So they did not streamline anything as dark and macabre as it is to say that, but that's how I think of that as that's how limited their worldview was.
Yes. Yes. Viewing it's something that is it's something that just showcases the inhumanity of it all. Like just viewing another human being as someone that's not a human being, essentially. And that is the thing that I struggle so hard to wrap my head around, like the fact that there is evil like that has existed. And it's just, it's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you think about how, trans books were the first books to be burned at the Museum of Sexology in Germany, and we're seeing a similar targeting of the trans population now. These are people that are less than 1% of the population, and yet there's a whole media machine that's built around kind of making them the enemy. And it will take up a lot of the air in the room of a conversation with a person who might have never even met a trans person before.
Yeah.
It's a boogeyman. This is an imaginary villain that, and we all know the Nazis knew this very well. Len Riefenstahl and their entire dedicated propaganda campaign and department. And in this film, we expand on that a little bit and show how they were using actors to play doctors in these T4 propaganda films. And this was like a very well-oiled machine that they knew how important the outside perception was of the enemy that they were trying to build, right? Because Germany comes from being a state-of-the-art healthcare institution in the 1920s to the absolute dregs, the worst thing that's ever happened in healthcare in human history. And how that happens is they start labeling them useless eaters. And lives unworthy of living, Lebenswerten on Lebenswerten. They came up with all of these German words to label them, new words that had never been used before. I don't want to spoil too much of the film, but there's more of that in there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. In the part about like the parts about the propaganda and like just like the bit about the movie theater environment and the propaganda that was put in there, and the images that are shown in the film is just absolutely heart-wrenching because again, it should have never happened like that. It's just so it's just such a dark piece of history, but the film is great. Like, I don't want to hammer on too much about just how dark and depressing as the subject is, but the actual like filmmaking, like Cameron, you worked as the DP on it as well. The shots that are composed and the way the camera moves, as accompanied by just incredible voiceover from the people in the film. It is a gorgeous looking film, and I think that is so pivotal to the story being told, because you're on location in these places, and through the craft of the filmmaking and through the lens of the camera, it really feels like it's transporting us to that location. As hokey as that might sound, it is very transporting to the viewer, because you just get such a ground view look at the scale of it, and knowing the history. It's really spectacularly realized on film. So kudos to you on that, because it's a really gorgeous looking film.
Thank you. I saw that as part of my challenge, actually. I was like, the reason that there's never been a film about this made in this way that's really beautiful is because no one's ever maybe had the time to do it. But I think what I've learned now is actually that there's probably a film out there somewhere that just was never given the light of day, because making a film on this subject, you get so much pushback. As a cinematographer, I think a lot about, I double majored in college in film and visual anthropology. In visual anthropology, the field is really set up to make you think about who is making the film. And, there's a lot of colonial kind of post-colonial documentaries that are made where that kind of lens or that gaze is thought about, and how we can subvert it, how we can bring it back to the community, how communities can make films about themselves. And so that what you're talking about with experiencing being transported, that was very intentional because you could have made this film. I mean, the film has been made before in some way, it just hasn't been from the perspective of disabled people. And what I mean when I say that is the cinematography itself is ingrained with how a disabled person, certain different body types, different bodily experiences might inhabit the space. And so a lot of the time I was really focused on these continuous Ronin gimbal shots where I would just try and go through the space for as long as possible. And that at times you might run into my family or one of the curators, or, for instance, in the opening scene, the Louisiana Funky Butts just happened to be there while we were filming. And I think just added to those layers of historical palimpsest, that layering of history that's occurring right in front of you, but you might not have any idea that it's there, right? Because you're in these beautiful castles where you could never imagine something like this happening. So I think that the cinematography is really rich for that ability that it had to capture all of that. And it kind of depends on you as the viewer, right? What do you bring to the image? What information are you thinking about while viewing these, steady cam like shots through the Hartheim Castle, or Grafneck in southern Germany, also a castle, big, kind of yellow and brightly colored, and what information are we bringing with us when we view these images that kind of complicates them?
Yeah, it is gorgeous. It's stunning, and that is such a powerful kind of thing to bring to the table with that. Just the way that, like, those very slow shots that are just kind of moving in, the Steadicam shots of like moving into a place. It's just, there's this very very beautiful craft to it that I was really taken with. So that's awesome. Yeah.
Cinematic verite.
Yes.
Yeah. The best of both.
Oh yeah. So
yeah, and I was really inspired by filmmakers like Ross McElway, who make personal narrative reflexive films, but they often intertwine them with history. So Sherman's March was a film that heavily inspired this film, as well as Claude Lanzmann's Shoah, for their kind of contemporary obsession with capturing what the history looks like now. Like, if you go to these places right now, what do they look like?
Yeah, and seeing the juxtaposition of like those modern day locations, with knowing how the history occurred there is also very potent in the film as well. And was this your feature debut?
Yeah, this is the first feature film I've directed. I've DP'd several feature films, but this is the first documentary or narrative feature film that I've made as a director.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, I mean, like I did fact check that for myself because it's so good. Yeah. So what has the festival circuit been like with it? How has it been taking it on the road? You guys premiered it at Slam Dance was that February? Yeah. How has it been in terms of just bringing it to an audience, and what's the feeling been like in the audiences and just seeing it on the big screen?
Yeah, well, just to kind of respond to the first comment about the first directorial thing.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, very obsessive about being very perfectionist about any feature that I would ever release. And this film definitely put me into some uncomfortable places at times where I had to accept that not every moving image was going to be the perfect or most beautiful image. And that's like a conundrum I feel like only like the Soderberghs and others of the world who are DP directors experience. It's this kind of conflict between your job as a DP is to create beautiful, moving, perspectival images and capturings, and yet you've got this director hat on where you're also just trying to forefront the story constantly. Story always comes first. Yep. And so this is the first feature film I guess I've been able to get out of me, maybe merely out of just necessity that I grew up as a kid not feeling very understood. How would I explain this experience that I had with my family of traveling to these gas chambers in Germany, in the 5th, 6th, 7th grade,
so everyone doesn't do that.
From my experience, no, but I mean, maybe.
So it's it's very much a story that's been along with me for a majority of my life, and I'm very happy to get it out of me now.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, yeah.
Because there were times where it was like, really that saying like, oh, you have to love your documentary subject because you'll fall in and out of love with it. I don't think I ever fell out of love with this film. There were moments where I might have taken a break to do another short film or something else to keep the creative juices flowing, to keep exercising those muscles. But ultimately this film was made. And, the response has been incredible. At Slamdance, we had a sold out screening. We won the audience award there. It was their first year in Los Angeles. So we got to receive our 2 awards on the stage of the Directors Guild.
Oh, wow.
So as a filmmaker, like that's like a wow. I'd never been in the DGA before, and here I am getting this award. And then most recently got to screen at the Alamo Drafthouse Cinema in Indiana, in Indianapolis, and it's only a year old. And I've never been in an Alamo Drafthouse, let alone seen a film in a Drafthouse. And so I'm like, wow, how weird is it that the first time I get to do this, I'm screening my own film? It's like it's really just very surreal. And the every time an audience sees this film, they come out with a similar comment to what you said at the start of this: is this film has to be seen. Like, how have more people not seen this film? It's really shocking. And I think it goes back to that historical anachronism comment, this idea that we might avoid unconsciously, darker corners of history, or, history like the Holocaust, where many of us might feel like we have the whole story, or we've seen a litany of films. And, so how much could a film possibly offer in terms of new information and opening our understanding? But that's exactly what this film does. It expands and changes, our understanding of this huge historical subject. So I think that's what audiences are responding to. We had actually the co-creator of Napoleon Dynamite, Jerusha Hess. She came to our screening in Salt Lake City at Slamdance Unstoppable on the Road, and came up to me afterwards, and like many people, told me that they had disabled people in their family. And so there's a lot of that too. Like Rachel Boyce, who's been all over Instagram with this film, she's a disabled actress, and the first thing she said to me after our world premiere at Slamdance was, I was sterilized without my consent. Wow. And that, my doctor basically turned to my parents and said, I can do this, while she was under for another surgery. And they said, yeah, go ahead. And so, I think, when you're making a great film, when just even one person in the room comes forward and says, hey, I feel seen. This is a part I've never seen before represented. And so I've had many powerful encounters like that in our Q&As and post screenings. You know, we've been to a Slam Dance, Doc Utah, San Francisco Jewish Film Festival, which was an incredible experience. Over 100 people came to that screening, and we had 5 rounds of applause during the Q&A. And we're starting to pick up more Jewish film festivals now. Boston is one that we can announce. There are a few we can't yet. And then Heartland, and we have this weekend, we have Ridgeway and Superfest, actually. So we're in Colorado, but the film is also available at this the oldest disability film festival in San Francisco this as well, the 16th through the 19th.
Wow, that's an incredible run, and congratulations on all of that. That's amazing, and also congratulations on going farther east than Indianapolis in the future. So
we're trying to get to Eastern Europe eventually.
There we go. You'll get there. Yeah. Another thing about the film that really tied it together even better was the score. Andre Barros did the score. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, and I just wanted to highlight that because it complements everything going on screen so beautifully, and really brings home that the weight and severity of the subject matter. So I don't know if you can speak to that. Andre's involvement.
I mean, obviously, Andre, I wish he were on. He could really let you into his process here. We'll have to do that in the future. That's an interview that is yet to happen yet. But yeah, the moving camera in this film, really, it was important to me that it paired with a moving score, that the camera in the score was constantly moving. Much like in the film, the counter memorial artist Andreas Knitz says his gray bus monument is a monument that has to be moved.
Yep.
Right. This is a subject that has to be moved. We have to be moved to feel, to do something. And that's what Andre brought with his score. We worked for months and months and months on this. He actually was with us even before we had done principal photography of the film in 2017. And that, I guess that just ended up being kind of our process. He also did the score for my PBS doc short, Elsa, which he actually recorded ahead of time. A sight unseen, I gave him kind of the story of this deafblind fencer and author who'd written for Marvel and Assassin's Creed. And he made this score that perfectly encapsulated her and wasn't too inspirational or inspiration porn or uplifting. It's really deep and layered and complex. And that's that's the magic of his work. I can't let you in on that or quite explain it.
Sure.
But I do know, we were both emphatic about a live score. So the things recorded with a 5-piece string ensemble in studio. And Andre was really enthusiastic about recording the breathing of I forget what he called it, but there's a word, but the breathing of the cello and the bowing and the in-between moments and the creaking and the cracking in studio and things like that. So it's really visceral approach to recording orchestral music.
Wow. Yeah. It came through beautifully. That you saying it being just a 5-piece in studio thing, it really breathes life into it. It's wonderful. I say that knowing really nothing that much about music, but it's just the feelings that it elicits throughout the film is just, it's like the icing on the cake of an already incredible film. So yeah.
One thing, an African-American woman who is deaf came up to us after we showed it at a Slam Dance.
It was Natasha O'Feely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Natasha O'Feely.
Well, I mentioned it because she's the lead. She's the star of the new Coldplay music video.
Oh, wow.
Natasha O'Feely happened to be in the audience of our world premiere. Anyways,
wow.
okay, the star of the new Coldplay video came up to me, and she said, what I loved about the film was I love the content of it, but I love that you broke down the musical instruments that were playing and how they were playing.
In the captions.
More than drums, or whatever. They weren't generic descriptions. And so I think all of that kind of works together in the film.
Yeah, and she also remarked that she could feel the score and the dialogue of the film in her bones.
That's awesome.
A really, so every theater we've gone to since that, I got to do the tech check at the Alamo. My main instruction is crank it. Like turn because the deaf audience, they want to feel the score. They want to feel the film. And it's a very rhythmic film. It's a very musical film. And so, basically as loud as the speakers allow, that's what we try to do.
Nice. And I've got to say, the Alamo here in Indianapolis, like you said, it's only been here for like a little over a year. That is one of the best places to show a film, I believe, here in Indianapolis. Like we've got a lot of great like indie and art house theaters around it, but like Alamo just it's an amazing setting to show a film. Like the sound in particular is just really all encompassing. Like I saw Nosferatu there, and it was like, oh, that was my second time seeing it. And I was like, this is a different experience than the first time I saw it at AMC. So,
I'd be curious to see Zone of Interest at the Alamo Drafthouse.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah.
And, I made this remark to the staff there, but it's the only theater I've seen where you have projectionists actively running around theater to theater. It's just not even back in the film days, I know like one of my mentors, Roy Wagner, who shot Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Warriors.
Oh, wow.
He would always complain about not getting the projections right as a cinematographer. You just didn't get the chance to meet with the projectionist. And I was able to do that at the Drafthouse and make sure that this film screened the way we intended.
That's great. I'm retroactively wishing that I would have been able to go to the screening, but maybe someday it'll show there again in some capacity. So
Ronnie, the theater manager, also was incredibly supportive of us. And when the buses shut down and we had no way to get back to our hotel on the night of our second screening, Ronnie actually helped get me and my dad back to the hotel with a really innovative solution. That's all I'll say about it.
Okay.
For now, but he used a gaming chair from his office, and because we had my dad's power chair, and there was no way of getting it into a car at that point, because not only the buses with ramps were shut down, but every medical transport company apparently in Indianapolis.
Oh, geez.
So we really had to think on our feet for that one. And the Alamo Drafthouse just stepped up and went above and beyond for us. And I will never forget that. So I wanted to mention it.
That's so great to hear. That's fantastic. I'm glad you guys had that experience and not, being stranded at the Alamo. Like that would have been not ideal.
Oh, you thought about sleeping there?
Yeah, I was like, I'll just sleep in the theater and I'll screen films all night.
Yeah, I mean, the seats are comfortable and they do have little heat in it, so I mean that's not a terrible idea.
No. That was the first I think I'd seen heated seats in a movie theater. I'd seen that before.
Yeah. It's really nice. Like I'm looking forward to the winter months and being able to just go in, get the heated seat, watch a movie, maybe get some coffee or something. That's how I like to unwind.
Yeah. I actually want to put it out there. My wish now for this film is for it to have a theatrical cinematic release only in Drafthouse cinemas. So if I don't know who we have to talk to there to make that happen, but I'd like to make that a reality.
I love it.
In our audience a little bit.
So good. Another name that I noticed in the credits, and this is like I see Nick Novicky's name. And I don't know him exactly, but like he's very prominent in Heartland with the Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge. And I got to interview him very briefly in 2018 for Heartland. It was part of like a press junket thing where I was in a tent with a bunch of other press, and then they just had filmmakers coming in a junket fashion, like rapid fire, and like me getting like to interview like all these filmmakers it was amazing, but like his interview just like stood out to me. I remember thinking like, man, I wish I had more than like 5-10 minutes with this guy, because it blew me away. So anyway, how was he involved in the film, and tell him I said hi.
Yeah, Nick has been a part of my filmmaking journey since I started making films myself. His Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge is actually what prompted me to make my first narrative short film, The Co-op, which is about a bank robber whose plans go horribly awry when he realizes the grocery store he's targeted is full of disabled people.
Oh, wow.
So it's like kind of like black comedy, and very much done in maybe like a Kevin Smith type way. I don't know. Sure. But I did that film first, and then I did 2 more films for his film challenge. And Regenesis was one about a man who wakes up with the ability to walk, but he doesn't want it anymore. And then Kryptonite, which is featuring Ryan Lane and Shanice, the R&B singer, and it's about a hearing and non-hearing couple that are both involved in music. And so that actually was a finalist at his challenge a year ago. I think we were nominated 5 times. Didn't win, but that's okay. Nick tells me he's not involved in the awards, so that's that. But yeah, so Nick's been a part of that journey for me for a long time, and he saw the film and was immediately so moved by it that he joined us, and he's been at several of our screenings. He actually spoke at our second Q&A at Heartland, and he's also an EP on The Tallest Dwarf, which is that other film I mentioned, which is fantastic, and everyone should go check it out.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, because you guys have, you've got Ridgeway, you've got Boston down the line, you've got all of these things going on. But just to kind of start wrapping up a little bit, what's next aside from, the rest of the festivals and everything, like anything else like coming up or anything going on?
Yeah, so I'm going to go shoot a music video in Iceland in the middle of next month. I might be filming a documentary for Ravit Marcus at the end of this month in New Jersey. And I just shot a sci-fi post-apocalyptic short in Portland right when the troops were arriving.
Oh, wow.
We were on a military base, too. So
geez.
Extras.
But it was an abandoned one. But yeah, so been busy doing short films, and I think next I want to do a narrative feature. I've done a lot of doc. I want to get back to my narrative roots here, and make possibly a horror film.
Ooh, nice, very nice. I'm a huge fan of horror. Scream changed my life. Like you and we would not be having this conversation had I not seen Scream when I was like 8 years old or 10 years old. It just, because that kickstarted my love of movies, and like that, it was it for me from that point on. So credit to my parents for exercising probably poor judgment, letting me watch that movie, but it brought me here. But yeah, that's fantastic. And to kind of bring back the point earlier that you made about documentary film, that's something that has always fascinated me as someone who watches just an obscene number of movies a year and makes it like every ounce of my free time is just talking and thinking about movies. documentaries, like as a format, just as a genre, is so fascinating to me because, to like what you said, like you have all of this stuff, all of these things that are going into it, and the art that comes out of it is, I'm sure, not 9 times out of 10, probably not the exact art that you have in mind when you start it. And I just love that kind of, the idea of a documentary just finding itself in the edit or in the shooting of it, and having it be this extremely long process, and bringing it to life. That has to be just the most rewarding experience. So, not to put words in your mouth or anything, but like I applaud you for going for the documentary route and coming out with such an amazing product.
You know, David Lynch says that too about his films, that he always wants more time, that he hates the tight moving movie schedules of Hollywood, and that every opportunity he has to find something in the shot that's what he's looking for. You know, I also think of Robert Redford, recently departed, who said, there is no mountaintop. It's all about the challenge of the climb. So yeah. And, it's funny. So Scream got you into it. I'd say that The Matrix was the film that set it off for me, which is why I also have some sci-fi leanings, I think. So my next features, it's actually a bit horror and a bit sci-fi.
Nice.
As well. And it takes place in an institution.
Okay. So. I'm sold. When that happens and everything, like keep in touch with me, because I that's right up my alley for sure.
I will.
Yeah.
When I was 7 years old, my parents were getting divorced. My father took me to see The Exorcist one night. Wow. And my mother was so mad, she took me to see Gone with the Wind the next day. As if they were like, antipathies of each other.
Those were in theaters at the same time?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
That's wild. I love that. I love that so much. Wow. Yeah, when I saw Scream, it was at home on like Blockbuster Video. And like I had begged my mom to take me to Scream 2 when it was in theaters, like at that point less than a year later. And she did, and I watched it, and that also was just like furthered my drive to be like, oh, I want to just absorb movies. I want to be as knowledgeable about movies as these characters are that I'm watching getting completely killed and everything. But aside from that, I like the knowledge base of them knowing about movies. So yeah. Yeah,
and the reality is that you can never know everything there is to know, because we had one of the Dylan from Eventive saw our film, and we were talking about Nope, Jordan Peele's Nope, and as a cinematographer, I felt like I understood that film, but then Dylan was like, no, you have to see it near Kodak Eastman in Rochester, New York, because at the Q&A it was like them breaking down shot by shot which camera system was being used to film each scene. And I obviously thought of that, but they were naming the specific systems, and I was like, okay, there's more I need to go into. I thought I knew everything because I knew Edward Muybridge.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's incredible. And yeah, I thought I knew everything, but then you said, was it Robert Redford? Was that it? I'm kidding. I know Robert Redford, but anyway, but yeah. Oh yeah, Nope is incredible, especially from cinematography standpoint. That's great. But in terms of things that I don't know about film, the one thing that I can say I know about is Disposable Humanity, which is an amazing documentary that everyone should definitely seek out and see. Cameron and David, could you tell us where they can find Disposable Humanity online, and where they can follow your work, and where they can find you?
Yeah, so we'll be online with heartlandfilm.org through the 19th or the 20th, I believe. So I recommend seeing the film in a theater. If you weren't able to, you could see it virtually there. It's also going to be virtually available through Superfest. So superfestfilm.org, I believe, is their website. And yeah, beyond that, it's the theatrical screenings. So next would be Ridgeway, but it's already going to be passed by the time this comes out. So after that, actually would be Mizzou. We're going to have a keynote screening and presentation at the University of Mizzou. So anybody around that area, come in and check our movement out, check our film movement out. And then after that, Boston Jewish Film Festival on November 16th at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, I believe at 11 a.m. And that's a Saturday or a Sunday.
Perfect. And I will put links to where you can find all of this stuff in the show notes of this episode. Those show notes will be available probably at obsessiveviewer.com/OV491. And also go to disposablehumanity.com.
Yes, I'm a terrible promoter.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Sign up for our mailing list on disposablehumanity.com. That's how you'll get news about all of our upcoming screenings. And if and when we get distribution to a streamer, that it will be brave enough and courageous enough to take this film on. And we also have a big community on Instagram at Disposable Humanity. And my personal one is Cameron Makes Movies. So you can also follow me there if you want to follow on with my next film, if it seemed interesting to you. Perfect. And yes, so go to disposablehumanity.com, sign up for the newsletter, be like me, who just now did it, and I am now on the mailing list. Be like me and do that at disposablehumanity.com. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today, and honestly for the film. I mean, it's an important piece of history that I'm honored to have been able to see. And I wish you guys all the best, and congratulations on all the success, and best of luck with the rest of it. Thank you so much. And I'll wrap up here in a second, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you so much for having us. I now need to go check out more episodes of your show, because if they're anywhere near as deep as this one was, I want to listen to them.
Oh, thank you.
They tell me I view obsessively.
All right, and there you have it. My interviews from Heartland Film Festival. Again, go to these films' respective websites, A Simple Machine and Disposable Humanity. They're both incredible films. Also, make sure to follow Richard's progress over at the Tenderness Tour for his film with Andy Redwine. And if you're in Indianapolis, or if you are in the United States, even, like, keep an ear out for Indie Shorts Festival in July and Heartland Film Festival in October, and, get tickets, get digital tickets, go to screenings and everything, because I know it's a year out for Heartland now, but it's such a great place, such a great experience to just go there. Like, anytime I've been at Heartland and in the seat in the theater watching a movie for Heartland, like, that is the only time that I'm not anxious or nervous when people talk to me, like, before the movie and after the movie. Because the feeling of being at a film festival and being at Heartland Film Festival and having people, like, have conversations with you, just complete strangers talking about the movies that you've seen at the festival, or the movie that you just watched at the festival, having it, just that community aspect of it, having that conversation with complete strangers is great. At Richard's screening at the Tenderness Tour, the guy I sat next to is this, I think he was a college student who was talking about how he was working on an app that is specifically to like a streaming platform specifically for student films. And, like, that was just information. Like, we were just talking about it, and it was really cool. So anyway, Yeah, I think that will do it for this episode of the Obsessive Viewer podcast. Once again, thank you so much to Mark and Alyssa and Cameron and David and Andy and Richard and everyone at Heartland Film Festival who is like, I can't imagine how exhausted they must be right now in this moment. I'm recording this Monday at 9:30 p.m. I have work tomorrow. But like they just ran several marathons of things in the span of 10 days in Indianapolis at Heartland Film Festival. So really pleased with this year's film festival. Also forgot to mention that I went to the after party. I went to the after hours last night of the film festival that was at Alamo Drafthouse, and I got to participate in Lou's movie trivia that is at Alamo Drafthouse on the first and third Sunday of each month. It was so much fun. I finally got a chance to do it. It was a blast. I'm going to do that so much more. The questions are amazing. And it's just, he's a very gifted public speaker, and he's really good at going about the like controlling the audience in a way. It was so much fun. So if you're in Indianapolis, go the first or third Sunday of each month for Lou's, my friend Lou from the Indiana Film Journalists Association, his movie trivia at Alamo Drafthouse on the first and third Sunday of each month. And if you see me, say hi. Because I am going to make a point to go to those much more often because it is such a blast. So I think that should just about do it for this week's episode of the Obsessive Viewer podcast. I am not sure what I'm going to be doing for the next episode. Probably maybe Shelby Oaks and, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, that I think is going to be on Hulu on Wednesday. That's up in the air. I'm not sure what exactly I'm going to do, but once again, thank you to everyone who supports my work and who put in the effort to do everything with Heartland. Like every person that I've interacted with at Heartland has been just an amazing experience. So thank you to the filmmakers I interviewed. I'm going to play my wrap it up music. Thank you to the filmmakers. Thank you to Heartland Film Festival and Alamo Drafthouse and Can Theater. So that's it for this episode of The Obsessive Viewer. As always, thank you so much for listening. Make sure to follow the show on social media and subscribe to the podcast on your preferred podcast app. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. And now, enjoy this short clip from a recent Patreon exclusive episode. For the full episode and more Patreon exclusive content, sign up at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. It's such an interesting, special kind of, a very special sort of document of what it means for people to find their passion early and find that passion, find joy in the hard times of being a teenager. And it's really a kind of cozy, very comforting documentary. And she gets a lot of testimonials from people and insights of people who have gone through hardships since coming up out of Logansport. And it's a really well-made documentary. And like I said about the tenderness to her, just like the way that Logansport and the way that Indiana comes through in the documentary is just very, it is very in keeping with that overall theme, that overall just like idea of like middle America, small town America, sort of just coziness. Thank you for listening to the Obsessive Viewer podcast. This episode was produced and edited by me, Matt Hurt. If you have feedback, thoughts on our episodes, or just want to connect, you can email me at matt@obsessiveviewer.com. For more information on this show, including a full archive of our episodes and show notes, visit obsessiveviewer.com. And if you enjoyed the show, please give us a follow on social media and subscribe to us on your podcast app of choice so you never miss an episode. Also, consider rating and reviewing the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Audible to help increase our visibility and grow our community. If you want to support the show and get early access to new episodes, as well as a steady stream of exclusive episodes, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. For information on more podcasts presented by obsessiveviewer.com, visit obsessiveviewer.com/podcasts. Our theme song is A Little Mad Sometimes by As Good As It Gets. For more of their music, check them out on Spotify and at asgoodasitgetsmusic.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Get up to 2 months of free podcasting service with Libsyn. Check out the show notes for your promo code to get started podcasting today.